The nurse's note said my stepfather asked, "Is she awake enough to sign anything?" I was in the ICU with sepsis, 2 days before signing for my father's inheritance. My mother told everyone she was just a terrified parent making impossible choices. Then I found out she had called my life insurance company while I was unconscious. The worst part is, the night before I got sick, she texted me, "Big day Thursday. Your dad would be proud." I thought it was love. It was a timestamp. My name is Avery, and I'm 31. My dad, Michael, died when I was 17. He owned a small roofing company outside Columbus, Ohio, and he was not rich in the flashy way. He drove the same truck for 12 years. He packed sandwiches in a dented cooler. He wore his work boots until the soles looked like cardboard. But he planned carefully. Before he died, he created a trust for me. It paid for school, medical expenses, and basic support, but I would not get full control until I turned 31. His attorney, Robert Klein, told me my dad wanted me old enough to understand the difference between help and control. For years, I thought that sounded dramatic. Then I learned my mother understood that difference too. She just preferred control. My mom, Linda, was not the kind of person who grabbed money with both hands. That would have been easier to hate. She was softer than that, smarter than that. She brought soup when I was sick, then mentioned her overdue electric bill while rinsing the bowl. She told me she was proud of me, then sighed and said, "I just wish your father had trusted me the way he trusted a bank." She cried before asking for anything. That was her gift. She could make you feel cruel for noticing the request. My parents divorced 3 years before my dad died, but my mother still talked about his estate like every dollar he left me had been stolen from her. She never said, "I want your inheritance." She said things like, "It must be comforting to know you'll never really be alone." Or, "Some of us don't have dead men protecting us." After she married Mark, my stepfather, everything got sharper. Mark rarely raised his voice. That was what made him effective. He made selfish things sound like adult decisions. He made cruelty sound like budgeting. If my mother was a velvet glove, Mark was the hand inside it. One Thanksgiving, after I said I couldn't lend them $8,000 to catch up on their mortgage, he leaned back in his chair and said, "Must be nice having a dead man pay your way." My mother touched my hand and whispered, "He doesn't mean it like that." But she didn't ask him to apologize. She just watched to see if I would. A week later, she called and said, "I know Mark was harsh, but he's not wrong that your father left things uneven." That was how it worked in our toxic family. Mark said the cruel thing out loud. My mother pretended to soften it. Look, then she planted the same idea later, quietly, like it had grown there by itself. The final trust signing was scheduled for March 14. It was not some dramatic will reading where everyone gathered in a dark room and gasped. My father's will had been settled years earlier. There was no secret will hidden in a drawer. This was the distribution appointment where the trust would fully transfer under my control. I was also supposed to update my estate documents, remove my mother from old contact permissions, and name new beneficiaries for anything connected to my accounts. Robert explained it plainly. Once you sign, Linda has no access, no contact role, no standing to call on your behalf, and no practical way to insert herself. I joked, "So I'm finally an adult on paper." He didn't smile. "Avery, if something happens before you sign, your mother cannot simply take the trust, but she can delay it, contest things, claim confusion, request reimbursement, and create problems. She knows that." I said. "She wouldn't go that far." Robert looked at me over his glasses. "You may be right," he said, "but your father paid me to prepare for people being wrong." The night before I got sick, my mother texted me, "Big day Thursday. Your dad would be proud. Please eat something tomorrow." You get lightheaded when you're stressed. It was the kindest thing she had said in months. I stared at that message for a long time. I even showed Denise, my neighbor and closest friend, and said, "Maybe she's trying." Denise said, "Maybe, just keep your eyes open." I didn't. 2 days before the signing, I got sick. It started with chills and a fever. I had a small cut on my leg from a broken planter on my balcony, and it looked red, but I told myself I was fine. By Tuesday night, I couldn't stand without gripping the wall. Denise found me on the bathroom floor after I stopped answering her texts. She called 911. I remember the ambulance ceiling. I remember someone saying my blood pressure was dropping. I remember trying to tell a paramedic I had an appointment Thursday, which makes me cringe now, but apparently even half delirious, I was worried about paperwork. By Wednesday morning, I was in the ICU with sepsis. My emergency contact was still my mother. That was the part I hated admitting later. I had done that to myself a little. Not the betrayal, not the greed, but the access. I had kept her there because some childish part of me still wanted my mother to be the person who came running when I was hurt. The hospital called Linda. She came with Mark. Later, I saw the visitor record. They stayed 28 minutes. During those 28 minutes, my mother did not ask to sit with me overnight. She did not ask who else should be contacted. She did not call Robert. She did not call Denise back, even though Denise left 3 voicemails, but she did cry in front of the nurse. That was in the note too. Mother visibly emotional. Stepfather asked whether patient was awake enough to sign anything. One sentence made her look heartbroken. The next made the whole thing rot. That note became the first receipt. The second receipt came from the hospital phone log. My mother told the desk, "Please don't give updates to anyone else. Avery is private, and I don't want distant people stressing her out." Distant people meant Denise. Distant people meant Robert. Distant people meant anyone who might protect me before she could manage the story. Thursday morning came and went. I missed the signing. Robert called me. No answer. He called again. Then he called my mom because her number was still in an old contact sheet from when I was a teenager. She told him I was resting and that family was handling everything. Robert asked to speak to me directly. She said, "That's not possible right now." Then Mark got on the phone and asked what would happen to the trust if I failed to recover before distribution was completed. Robert told him he represented me, not them, and ended the call. That should have scared them off. Instead, it made them move faster. While I was unconscious, my mother emailed the trust administrator and claimed I was incapacitated. She said she needed emergency access to my father's estate to protect Avery's assets and handle urgent medical obligations. She attached a hospital parking receipt like $12 for parking proved she was saving me. Mark called the title company connected to the duplex my dad had placed in the trust. He asked whether a parent could authorize a sale if the beneficiary was medically unable to complete distribution. Then he called my life insurance company. To be clear, they did not give him money. They did not release private information. But Mark had my name, date of birth, employer, and policy number because my mother had old files from when I was younger. The representative logged the call under my policy because Mark claimed he was helping the beneficiary prepare for a possible claim. He asked, if the insured dies in the hospital, what documents are needed, and how long does the death benefit usually take? The representative gave a general answer and a call reference number. That reference number became the third receipt. The fourth one was worse. My mother created a family group chat called Avery Updates. I found out later that almost none of it was about my condition. She wrote, "Please pray. If Avery doesn't make it, I don't want Michael's side turning this into a money fight. Mark and I are the only ones handling her final arrangements." Then Mark wrote, "If she passes before Tuesday, we still have a window to stop the transfer." My Aunt Carol replied, "What transfer?" My mother answered, "It's complicated. Her father left things in a way that hurts everyone." No, my father left things in a way that stopped her. I woke up Saturday afternoon weak, confused, and so dry my tongue felt like paper. A nurse told me not to sit up too fast. I asked for my mom. Her face changed. "She was here earlier in the week," she said carefully. "Earlier?" She said she was managing family communication. Even through the medication. That sounded wrong. Love does not usually sound like a locked door. Denise came the next day with clothes, a charger, and a balloon that said, "You're tougher than you look." She looked furious in the quiet way people get when they are trying not to upset a sick person. "I kept calling your mom," she said. "She told me not to come. She said you needed rest and no visitors." I whispered, "Why would she do that?" Denise looked at the door. "Robert called me. He couldn't reach you. He said something felt off." Robert came Monday morning with a folder so thick it made my pulse jump. He pulled a chair beside my hospital bed and spoke gently, which somehow made it worse. "Avery, did you authorize your mother or Mark to request emergency access to your trust?" "No." "Did you authorize them to contact your life insurance provider?" I stared at him. "No." He showed me the nurse's note, the phone log, the trust email, the title company note, the insurance call log, the family group chat screenshot. Then he showed me the fifth receipt. My mother had sent relatives a private message asking for emergency help with Avery's medical and final expenses. Not hospital bills, not recovery costs, medical and final expenses. Aunt Carol had sent her $2,000. My cousin Beth sent $500. 2 other relatives sent smaller amounts. My medical insurance was active. No final bill had been issued. My mother had raised money for a death I had not died yet. I didn't feel angry first. I felt embarrassed. Like they had already packed me away and started arguing over drawer space. Then Robert showed me the timestamp that made my skin go cold. The only reason he had it was because Mark had accidentally forwarded the wrong email chain to the trust administrator while asking about emergency access. Buried under Mark's message was a screenshot of my trust reminder, sent from my mother to him 11 minutes after she texted me, "Big day Thursday. Your dad would be proud." Under the screenshot, my mother had written one line. "After Thursday, there's nothing left to negotiate. www. 11 minutes. That sweet text had not been peace. It had been her checking the clock. That night, my mother came to the hospital with a pink blanket and a grocery store bouquet. She walked in like a woman who had been sleeping in waiting rooms for a week. "My baby," she said, pressing her hand to her mouth. "I thought I was going to lose you." I looked at the flowers. "Where were you?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "I was here." Her voice softened into that wounded tone I knew too well. "I was handling things. You have no idea what I went through." "I know you told them not to call Denise." Her eyes flickered. "I was trying to keep things calm." "I know you emailed the trust office." Her hand tightened around the bouquet. "I was trying to protect you." "I know Mark called my life insurance company." The room went quiet. Mark stood near the door with his hands in his jacket pockets. "Avery, adults had to ask practical questions." "About my death benefit?" My mother flinched. Mark said, "Hospitals are expensive. Death is expensive." "You were unconscious. I have medical insurance." "You were dying," my mother snapped. "We were standing there making decisions." I said, "You were there for 28 minutes. Her face tightened. Then she looked at Robert, who had stayed because I asked him to. "You're poisoning her against me, just like Michael did." Robert did not react. I pushed the call log toward her with shaking hands. "Explain the reference number." "Likely." She stared at it. Mark stepped forward. "This is disgusting. Your mother was terrified, and you're turning it into some revenge story because you're embarrassed she had to manage your life." I said, "She wasn't managing my life. She was preparing for my death." My mother started crying, but it felt like anger leaking out through tears. "You always thought that money made you better than me," she said. "Your father made sure of that." And there it was. Not grief, resentment. I told them to leave. My mother whispered, "You'll regret treating me like this when I'm gone." I said, "I almost was gone, and you were checking payout timelines." After I was discharged, recovery was slow. I got winded walking to the kitchen. My hands shook when I signed forms. Robert postponed the trust appointment until I was stable enough to understand every page, then locked everything down. I changed my emergency contact to Denise. I removed my mother from every medical portal. I changed my life insurance beneficiary to a scholarship fund my dad used to donate to. I signed a will, a healthcare directive, and every boring document I had avoided because I thought I had time. My mother did not disappear. She changed tactics. She called relatives and told them I had ICU paranoia. She said sepsis had affected my brain. She said Mark had only made responsible calls because he loved me. She said I was destroying the family over money. Somehow, the stolen inheritance story got flipped. According to my mother, I was the greedy one. I had stolen peace. I had stolen gratitude. I had stolen what she morally deserved after raising me. Aunt Carol texted, "Your mother nearly lost her child. Please don't punish her over paperwork." Beth wrote, "I don't want to take sides, but money makes people ugly." I almost replied, "So does waiting for someone to die." Instead, I sent nothing. A month later, my mother invited everyone to a dinner to celebrate Avery's recovery. She put it in the family group chat with prayer emojis and a photo of me from high school. Denise told me to stay home. Robert said, "You are under no obligation to attend." But I was tired of being the rumor. I was tired of people discussing my mind, my money, and my father's estate like I was not alive enough to answer. So I went. Robert came too. The dinner was at my mother and Mark's house on a Sunday afternoon. White tablecloth, lemonade in glass pitchers. My mom wearing a blue dress I bought her for Christmas. Mark standing by the grill like a man who had not asked how fast my death benefit could pay out. When I walked in, the room softened. People looked at me with pity, suspicion, or both. My mother hugged me too tightly and whispered, "Please, don't embarrass yourself today." I whispered back, "Then don't lie." She pulled away like I had slapped her. Robert arrived 10 minutes later with a leather document bag. Mark saw him and said, "Why is he here?" I said, "Because every time you call something family, paperwork shows up missing." Nobody laughed. For half an hour, my mother performed beautifully. She talked about how terrifying the hospital had been. She said, "There is no pain like almost losing your child." Aunt Carol rubbed her shoulder. Beth looked down at her plate. Then my mother looked at me across the table. "I just hope Avery understands someday that everything I did was out of love." That was the line. I put my fork down. "What exactly did you do out of love?" Huh. The room went silent. My mother's eyes warned me. "Honey, not now." "No," I said. "You invited everyone here because you told them I accused you unfairly. So let's be fair. Tell them what you did." Mark stood. "This is inappropriate. And what? And close." Robert opened his bag. "If you discuss Avery's mental state, inheritance, or financial decisions in front of this group," he said, "I will correct the record." Beth whispered, "Oh my God." My mother said, "Avery has been through a serious medical trauma. She is not herself." Robert placed the nurse's note on the table first. He read Mark's question. Is she awake enough to sign anything? Mark's face changed. Then Robert placed the hospital phone log beside it. Linda instructed staff not to provide updates to Denise or any other caller. My mother said, I was protecting her privacy. Robert placed the trust email beside that. This was sent while Avery was unconscious. He read my mother's words about preventing my father's estate from being wasted. Aunt Carol frowned. Linda, you told me you only asked about hospital bills. My mother said, that is what I meant. Robert placed the insurance call log beside the email. The hospital had not issued a bill. Avery's medical coverage was active. This call was made to her life insurance company. End quote. Mark said, general information, that's all. Robert nodded. Correct. General claim information under Avery's policy, using her identifying details, while she was unconscious. Then he read the question. If the insured dies in the hospital, what documents are needed, and how long does the death benefit usually take? No one moved. Then Robert placed the family group chat screenshot on the table. Aunt Carol picked it up with shaking hands and read Mark's message out loud. If she passes before Tuesday, we still have a window to stop the transfer. My mother whispered, Carol, don't. Carol stared at her. You told me she was hallucinating. My mother's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then Beth, who had been silent the entire dinner, pushed her chair back. She asked me to post an update if Avery died, Beth said. Everyone turned toward her. Beth's voice shook. She sent me a draft. She said she would be too devastated to write it herself. My mother said, that is not fair. Beth looked sick. It mentioned donations. Robert already had the draft. Beth had forwarded it that morning after she saw I was coming to dinner with him. He placed it on the table. The draft said, in lieu of flowers, the family asks for help covering Avery's medical and final expenses as we navigate the painful process of protecting what her father left behind. Protecting what her father left behind. Carol stood up. You took money from me, she said. My mother started crying again. I was scared, Carol said. You said she was dying. She was, but she wasn't dead. Then Robert placed one final page on the table. This was included in the email chain Mark accidentally forwarded to the trust office, he said. It is Linda's message from the night before Avery got sick. He read it aloud. After Thursday, there's nothing left to negotiate. The room went silent in a different way. Not shocked. Done. Mark snapped. That money should have gone to Linda in the first place. There it was, the cleanest confession he could have given me. My mother turned on him. Mark. But he was angry now. She raised you, he said, pointing at me. Your dad got to die a hero and leave behind documents. Your mother got bills. You sat on assets while she struggled. I stood slowly because my legs were still weak when I got upset. My father left me protection, I said. You treated it like an unpaid invoice. My mother said, you came here to humiliate me. No, I said. You invited me here to lie about me. Then I said the sentence I had been carrying since the ICU. You didn't leave me alone because you couldn't bear to watch me die. You left me alone because you were busy preparing to profit from it. Nobody defended her. That silence did more than yelling ever could have. Robert slid one final page toward Mark. This is a cease contact notice. All future communication goes through my office. Mark laughed once, but it sounded nervous. You can't cut off family with a letter. I said, watch me. I signed the final trust documents the next Tuesday. There was no courtroom, no police at the door, no movie ending. Just me, Robert, 2 witnesses, a notary, and a pen that felt heavier than it should have. Inside the file was a sealed letter from my dad, meant to be opened when I took full control. He wrote, if you are reading this, I hope the money helps. But more than that, I hope you understand why I protected it. Love should make you freer, not smaller. Be kind, but do not be owned. I cried so hard, Robert stepped out of the conference room. The consequences came slowly. The trust office permanently barred communication from my mother and Mark. The title company documented Mark's inquiry and sent it to Robert. The insurance company flagged the policy for extra verification and confirmed my beneficiary change. My medical records were updated so my mother could not receive information or make calls pretending to help. Aunt Carol demanded her $2,000 back. Beth apologized for believing the ICU paranoia story. I accepted the apology, but I did not comfort her. I told her, believing the easiest story still hurts people. My mother left voicemails for weeks. Some were sobbing. Some were furious. One said, I hope you enjoy turning your family into a story. I hope strangers tell you you're right while your mother has nothing. I saved it to the legal file and deleted it from my phone. Mark sent one email saying I had misrepresented practical estate planning as malice. Robert replied for me with one sentence. Do not contact my client again. 6 months later, my mother and Mark sold their house. I did not cause that. Their mortgage had already been behind. That was why they needed my father's money so badly. The trust, the duplex, the life insurance. Any piece of me they could turn into a rescue plan for themselves. Some people call that karma. I don't know if I do. Karma sounds clean. This was not clean. I survived, but I still had follow-up appointments. I still got tired faster than before. I still sometimes woke up at night hearing hospital machines in my head. And sometimes, even after everything, I wanted my mother. Not Linda with the emails, the donation draft, and the call logs. The mother I kept hoping existed underneath all the resentment. That is the part nobody tells you about cutting off a toxic family. Freedom can still hurt. I kept the duplex. One unit is rented to a retired teacher who grows tomatoes and coffee cans on the back steps. I turned the other unit into a small office. My dad's letter hangs above the desk in a plain black frame. Sometimes I sit there and think about how close I came to dying, with everyone believing my mother had done her best. If I had not survived, she would have cried at my funeral. Mark would have asked about forms. My relatives would have called her strong. My father's protection would have been treated like an obstacle to work around. But I did survive. I signed the papers myself. I stopped begging people to believe me and let the documents speak instead. So yes, this is an inheritance story. It is a revenge story too, but not because I destroyed anyone. The revenge was truth. The revenge was boundaries. The revenge was watching my mother realize that the daughter she tried to write off as confused was still alive, still legal owner of her own life, and finally done paying emotional debts she never owed. My father left me protection. My mother sent me invoices. I know which one was love. So what would you have done in my place? Could you ever forgive a mother who says fear made her practical, even after the paperwork proves she was planning around your death? And be honest, who is worse, Mark for saying the ugly part out loud, or Linda for hiding behind tears while he said it? Tell me honestly in the comments, because some days I still wonder if cutting her off makes me cold, or just finally sane. Thank you for watching and listening to my story. If you want more inheritance stories, revenge stories, toxic family drama, stolen inheritance secrets, and realistic karma endings, please like, subscribe, and share your opinion below.